D. Menaga. I am working as an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering from St. Joseph Institute of Technology. Today we shall see about the topic of inheritance in Java. What is meant by inheritance? So inheritance is nothing but a process of acquiring the properties and methods from an existing class. As we all know that a child will be inheriting the characteristics of a parent. Similarly, here we are going to use a class concept so that we are going to apply the concept of inheritance. So assume there is a base class and a derived class. So the two keywords which is used here is nothing but a base class and derived class, and so the properties of a base class can be accessed from a derived class. See, the other name for derived class can be child class, subclass, and the other name for base class is nothing but superclass, parent class. So whatever the properties and methods that is used in the base class can be accessible from a derived class. So usually, and using an object, we can access the properties and methods of a class. Here, when you are using a base class and derived class concept, we have to create an object of this derived class, and from that object we can access the properties and methods of a base class. So the main use of this inheritance is nothing but reusability. We can use the code that is available in a base class from a derived class. So let us see an example program of inheritance. So consider two classes, person and an employee. So the person has the value of salary as 40,000 and employee has the designation printed to be as manager. Now I am going to create an object . So using an object, usually we will be creating an object for the class. So here I am creating an object for the derived class employee, E equal to new employee of, and from that I am accessing the value which is present in the base class person. So if I give just E dot salary, I cannot access the value which is present here in the base class, because I have created an object for the derived class. So what we have to do is, we have to give a keyword called as extends base class name. So extends is a keyword which is used in inheritance concept, which means that I am going to access the properties and methods of my base class. Got it? So here inheritance is nothing but the concept of acquiring the properties of methods and from a base class you are doing this. See here, the class person has a variable salary with the value of 40,000 and employee is extending the characteristics or properties of the class person. So here if I give E dot salary, I can access which employee? Manager's salary as 40,000. So the output which will be retrieved here is nothing but 40,000 will be obtained as output. Now let us see what are the types of inheritance. So now let us see the syntax of inheritance. We will be having a base class, base class. So in base class you can have properties and methods. And then you have a derived class. So in derived class also you will be having properties and methods. So inheritance is nothing but you are going to acquire the properties and methods of a base class from a derived class. So you need to use the keyword extends. So from where I am going to inherit? From the base class. So extends base class. So usually you will be creating an object for a class to access the methods and properties of it. So here you have two classes, base class and derived class. In inheritance concept, you need to create an object of your derived class to access both your properties of your base class as well as derived class. So now let us see the types of inheritance. The first type of inheritance is nothing but single inheritance. So from the name itself you can find out what is meant by single inheritance. So single inheritance is nothing but you will be having a single base class and a single derived class. Let us see the diagrammatic representation of it. You have a single base class and a single derived class. So here class B is nothing but your derived class or subclass or the child class, whereas class A is nothing but your base class or super class or parent class. Okay. So let us see the syntax of the single inheritance. So in single inheritance we have a single base class and a single derived class. Let us see the syntax of it. So we will be having class name is nothing but for the base class we are given as A. So class A, and the derived class name is nothing but B. So this B is going to inherit the properties of class A, which means class B extends A. Let us see an example of single inheritance. So here we have a class called as vehicle. This vehicle is nothing but the base class. So in that we have a method called as color, that is going to display the color as black. And one more class we have is nothing but car, that is nothing but a derived class. So that is going to inherit the properties of the base class vehicle. So I am giving the keyword extends, which means that I am applying the concept of inheritance here. So this is going to inherit the properties of the vehicle, which means that this color method is accessible from my derived class car. So here in car derived class I have a method called as model. here we have a main class. So in that we have a main function public static void main of string args of. So in that we are going to create an object of this derived class alone. So now we need to create an object for the derived class car. So using this object we have created for the derived class, we can access the method of the derived class, as well as we can access the method which is present in our base class vehicle. So the output will be, so when the C.model is called, it will be displaying the output as sedan, the model of the car is sedan and the color is black. So usually if we didn't use inheritance concept, we have to create an object for this particular class alone and this particular class alone, and then using that object only we can invoke the method which is present in that class. But when we use the concept of inheritance, we are having the keyword extends which will be accessing the properties and methods of your base class. So it is enough to create an object of this particular derived class alone, car of. So from that particular object we can access both the methods which is present in your base class as well as derived class. So when you give C.model of, it will be accessing this particular model method and displaying the output as sedan, and then when you give color method, that will be called and this will be executed which is present in your base class. Finally I will be getting the output as sedan and black. Hope you understand what is meant by single inheritance. Next, let us move on to the next type of inheritance, multi-level inheritance. So we got a clear idea about what is meant by single inheritance. Now let us move on to the next topic, multi-level inheritance. Here in this multi-level inheritance, we can inherit the properties and of more than one class. Let us see a diagrammatic representation of it. So we have, so in this example we have three classes, class A, B and C. So from class C we can inherit the properties and methods of class B, and from class B we can inherit the properties and methods of class A. So here we can denote this in the syntax as class A with some properties and methods, and we have class B. So this class B is going to inherit the properties and methods of class A. So extends A. So this also will have some properties and methods. And then we have a class C. So that is going to inherit the properties and methods of class B. This also will have some properties and methods. Now let us see an example of how this multi-level inheritance is implemented. We have a base class called as vehicle with a method of color in it. So this color is going to just print the color as white, and then we have one more class, derived class called as car. That is going to inherit the properties and methods of this vehicle class. So in this car we have a method called as model. of sedan type, and then one more class called as display, which is going to inherit the properties of the class called as car. So in that I have a method called as display of system.out.println of. So this is just going to display the vehicle is car. Okay. So I have three classes here. This class display is nothing but that is going to inherit the methods of the class car, and then this car is going to inherit the methods of the class vehicle. Okay. So this is nothing but a derived class of the base class car, and this car acts as a derived class for this base class vehicle. Now I am going to create a main class. So in that we will have a main function. So as we all know, we will be creating an object for the derived class. So here the derived class is nothing but disp, right? So I am creating an object for the derived class disp b equal to new disp of. So from this object I can access all the methods which is available in the classes. So I can give d dot display of, and then d dot model of, then d dot color of. So what will be output I will be getting. So I am creating an object for the display class, and then I am invoking the method called as display of. So this method will be invoked, and I will be getting the message as vehicle is car. Okay. Then when I invoke this method d dot model of, this will be invoked, and then because I am inheriting the properties from the display class itself, I am inheriting the properties and methods of this base class car. So I can invoke the method using the object of this display class. D dot model, when I call off, it will be displaying the messages sedan, and then when I call the method d dot color of, this method will be invoked, and I will be getting the messages white. So hope you understand what is meant by multi-level inheritance. Next let us move on to the next type of inheritance, hierarchical inheritance. So that's all about multi-level inheritance. So multi-level inheritance is nothing but a chain of inheritances. So the next type of inheritance is nothing but hierarchical inheritance. So when two or more derived classes acquire the properties and methods of a single base class, then that is called as hierarchical inheritance. Let us see the diagrammatic representation of it. So here I have three derived classes, class B, C and D, that is going to inherit the properties of class A, that is base class, only single base class here. So this can be syntaxically represented as, using the extends keyword, the same diagram can be represented as, here we have a base class A with properties and methods. And we have a derived class B that is going to inherit the properties of class A. And then we have class C. So that is going to inherit the properties and methods of class A. And then we have class D. So all these classes will have properties and methods. So this derived class is going to inherit the properties and methods of this class A. So I am using the keyword extends here and the base class name class A. So let us see an example for this hierarchical inheritance. We have a base class called as person. And then the method called as display of. So right, I have a base class called as person with display method that is going to display the name of the person as James, and then I have another class called as employee that is going to inherit the properties and methods of this base class person. So in this employee class again I have a method called as desig that is going to display the designation of that employee. Okay, and then one more class I have, class student extends person. So here void details of system dot out dot println of so details is to CSE student. Okay, and one more class I have, class technical writer extends person. So in that I have one more method, void display of (11 years). So here I have three derived classes, employee, student, technical writer. All are inheriting the properties and methods of the base class person. In base class I have one method called as display of. Now comes your main class. And then your main function. Right, I am creating a method for my derived class student. shall be accessing d dot details of and then d dot display of. Okay. So I am creating an object for this particular student class and I am invoking the method which is present in the student class and then this particular base class display of. So when I give this, the output will be displayed as, when this method d dot details of is invoked, it will be displaying the message output as CSE student, and when this particular method is displayed, it will be invoking and displaying the message as James. So this will be the output I will be retrieving when I use this hierarchical inheritance. So this hierarchical inheritance is nothing but here you can inherit the properties of a single class from various derived classes. So this class B can also access the properties and method which is present in class A as well as class C also can access and class D can access. So now in this example I have used this class student is going to use the properties and methods of this class A, which is nothing but your base class person. From particular class student I am accessing the details of the student name James. Okay. So with this you know what is mean by hierarchical inheritance. Next let us see what is mean by multiple inheritance and why it is not supported in Java. The next type of inheritance is multiple inheritance. So multiple inheritance, a single derived class tries to acquire the properties and methods of more than one base class. So in Java multiple inheritance is not supported. Let us see why it is not supported. So here is a diagrammatic representation of multiple inheritance. So I have three base classes here, class A, class B and class C. From derived class D I am going to inherit the properties and methods of these three base classes, class A, B and C is going to be inherited by this class D. So let us see why it is not supported in Java. So this can be represented in programming wise. The syntax can be class A. So in class A I have void display of method, okay, and then I have another method called as class B. So in that also I have a method called as void display of. So here is nothing but and then other class is nothing but class C. So I am going to create a class for this class D derived class. By using the keyword extends, I am going to inherit all the classes here A, B, C, because we know that multiple inheritance is nothing but you are going to inherit the properties and methods of various base classes. Here you have A, B and C to be the base classes and this derived class is nothing but class D. Okay. So I have a message method which displays now comes your main class. So I am going to create an object for this derived class. Class B object is equal to new capital D of. So this object is going to invoke the method which is present in my derived class and my base class. So here so what happens when I give object 1 dot message of, so this method will be invoked which is present in your derived class and this class D will be displayed. But what happens when I give object 1 dot display of, it will be confused that which class to invoke and what method to call which is present in which class. There are 3 base classes and you will be getting a compilation error. That is why multiple inheritance is not supported in Java, since you will be getting an error when your all the base classes is having a method of this type. It is very hard to display the result. So in order to overcome this, we will be using a concept called as interfaces, so that we will be getting a correct output. I hope you understand what is meant by inheritance and what are the types of inheritance. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.